Okay, so what are we holding over here? Amram Nachman. Bottom of Samaches on the base. 3, 6,
You
7
didn't
lines.
find it interesting, Tiago, that the Mishnayos we just learned to do with sharecroppers and buying it back and renting it back, and we just had it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ataka, you're right. You're right. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I guess it's a simon that we should have skipped for a week over Pesach.
That's what I'm thinking. It would skip another 2 weeks. No, I texted Yechiel Greenblatt because he has a whole organization in Eretz Yisrael, Yisachar Zavulun. I forgot what it's called. He thought I was off the wall asking him if there's ribbits with the Yisachar Zavulun.
Did he? You asked him that?
I did. Excuse me. So I see what he says. I sent him the video. That it's all the way at the end. He didn't respond, so.
All right. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna have more of that tonight. Yeah. So Amar of Nachman. Yeah. With 2 dots, we have it. Amar of Nachman. Halacha Reb Yehuda. Right, the halacha is like Reb Yehuda. Remember, we said yesterday's daf, or the top of this daf, we're going through how much money.
Where is it? I apologize. Where is it?
3, 7 lines up on the bottom, 2 dots on Samach Chesem base. So yesterday, we're going to discuss it more tonight. So we said that there's something called an iska. An iska is not a partnership. We're going to see in tonight's stuff that it's not a partnership. It's where you have what we call the silent partner. One guy gives the money, and one guy is doing all the work. So, and they're going to split the profits. So we said that that's a chashash of ribis. Ribis derabanan. Why? Because essentially, since the worker is going to get half the profits, that means that he's borrowing half the money from the silent partner. Now, he's not charging that silent partner for all the work that he's doing. He's just going to get the profits. So since he's only going to get the profits and he's not charging him for the work that he's doing, so then that's ribis, because he's getting money from somebody and he's giving them a bonus for exchange, right? So we said you can't do that. So what do you have to do? You have to pay something to the partner. What do you call it? The sweat guy. The sweat guy. You have to give him epis something. So it looks like he's getting paid for his work, and that will avoid the ribis. Now, how does that avoid ribis? So we have to understand the lumdus is that this is ribis derabanan. It's not real ribis. It's ribis derabanan. So because it looks like the guy is really just borrowing the money from him, and he's not really thinking, he's not really borrowing it. It's sort of like a business venture together. It just looks like he's borrowing it, and he's giving him work for free. So it looks like ribis. So Mamela, we have to do something to make it not look like ribis. It's not paying him to dip his bread in, meaning calling it that a payment is dipping his bread into brine. Nobody thinks is considered a payment. But the question is it enough to offset the appearance of ribis? That's what it is.
So we invent the appearance of ribis, then we have to invent something to offset it.
Basically, yeah. Meaning the invention of appearing like ribis is, I don't know if we're inventing it, meaning us brains would never have chopped that it looks like ribis.
But guys went into business together. It's okay. Don't answer me because
no. Meaning, I imagine the financial brains would. I mean, I don't have the brain to figure out that this looks like ribis, but you have some people that know how to crunch numbers, and they might look at this and say, "Hey, this looks like ribis." But essentially, this guy's borrowing money from the other fellow, and he's giving him work for free.
It's Yaakov. The only reason why it's not ribis is not because it's not cuts. It's
correct.
He's lending him money. I understand that, but effectively,
it's not really lending him money.
He is
not
lending him money.
He's not lending
It's
him
a
money.
business. It's a business
If the
partnership.
guy takes responsibility, which the guy's achroi, if somebody takes achrayas for that, he's not. Then that for according to Heterisko, he was taking achrayas for half. That is lending of money. He has to pay you back for that. He's 100% responsible for that. That is lending money. I don't know how else you want to say. If I give you something and you are fully responsible, that's not a pekadon by you. That is lending money. In a
What do you mean
heter
he's
you are
what,
right for half of the.
what do you mean he's lending you? They went into business
If
together.
they lose on the venture, half the losses go to the person that borrowed it. If you want to say quote
Okay,
unquote borrowed it.
so
That's called borrowing money.
okay, you say it's borrowing money. I don't understand it.
What
Meaning
if he's not
depends
borrowing
on-
money? He doesn't know the losses should not go to him.
Okay, I don't care. I don't understand it, so it doesn't matter.
I'm not copying. What about this is not borrowing money?
I said I don't understand it, so don't try to explain it to me. I don't understand.
You gave up. It's a take for
So
you.
one second,
It's a take-home.
I'm trying to understand. What are we having trouble with here from your perspective when it comes to why this is not borrowing money?
Because that wasn't his intention. His intention was to open a business. Me and you are opening a business.
And when you
You're
open a
giving-
business, you have to borrow money.
That's
How else
no.
is the guy going to get money if he's not
No,
borrowing it?
No,
they
good.
didn't. He didn't borrow money.
Akiva, let's say me and you decide to open. I'm trying to push my kids to make a food truck. It's shine sight that the 5 towns has 5 billion restaurants. It's time that we get a food truck, right? So I'm trying to convince people. Anybody want to listen? You're welcome to take the idea. I won't have any tightness. I open a food truck, but I got no money for the capital. So I can have 2 ways of structuring. I could just go to a guy and say, "Hey, I need $100,000," and that's it. Or I could say, "Do you want to open a partnership with me, and we'll both own the food truck? I'll do the work. You give the money." I wouldn't look at that. I'm from my puny little brain. I wouldn't look at that like it's a loan. I would look at like we're a partner. I'm doing the work because I don't have money. You are giving money, so you don't have to do the work. No, isn't that what it looks like to me?
No,
But
not if the other person. Are you
'Cause
responsible to pay me back if you lose?
well, that's part of the question. That's part of the
Okay,
question.
so if you're responsible, that means you are borrowing money. I don't know how else to look at it. If I am not responsible, you're right. So then it's just your sweat equity that's going into it. But if you are
Correct.
responsible to pay me back if there's
Right.
money lost here, that's you borrowing money.
Correct.
How
So
else
that's
are you to look at it?
right. So that's exactly.
Forget about Lumdis. In
that.
Metzia,
I'm not looking at Lumdis. I'm looking at
in
you.
Metzia,
100%.
if you're responsible to pay me back, that's borrowing money.
You're
If you
100%
have to pay back
right.
with ribbons, that's a separate shiloh. But if you have to
Correct.
pay him back, that is a borrowing of money.
I think it's a little bit harder to understand because in American law, when you have business entities, they take on their own identity. So generally people, a lot of times the people themselves are not going to be achrei. You're going to go after the partnership or go after the corporation or whatever it is. But in halacha,
Calling it a corporation, the Torah does not recognize LLCs, but forget about the corporation aspect. The business is borrowing money. Call it a business. The business behind who the person is borrowing money.
I know, but that's not necessarily true that the business is behind you, the person in American law. Now we don't care about American law.
Why would that not be? If I put money into a business, you want to call it equity? What would you call it?
Yeah, you call it equity.
You call it equity, the fact that I'm putting money into a business?
Yeah, sure.
And how does that person, how does the other person acquire the equity?
Akiva, won't it depend on how you structure it? It's going to
Yeah,
depend.
It would depend on how you structure it, and that's how Heteriska works as well.
Yeah, of course it depends how you structure it. There's a million ways to do it, but in general, if you're not charged, if there's no set interest rate, it's going to be hard to call it a loan.
That depends. Some might say you'd have to impute the interest. You'd have to assume the interest. But again, for tax implications, it's not 100% true what you're saying. Even if there isn't a loan, there is a loan according to the IRS.
You're right. There is imputed interest. I'm saying
so then that's a loan. What does that mean? So that's a loan.
No, that is
even American law considers that a loan.
You're right.
Separate room. You're welcome to discuss the finer.
It's not the finer details. It's shot in the Gemara.
Corpse and.
Yes, did you record it and send it to me?
Ding, ding, ding. This is like a part of the interruption. No. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so fine, but that's what we're discussing. So the question is, we had a whole machlokes. What's the minimum amount of payment? However we understand it or don't understand it, what's the minimum amount of payment that the sweat guy can receive in order for it not to look like ribis. So Rav Nachman says Allah is like Rav Yehuda, who had said that as long as you gave him a groigris, or you gave it to him, or if he, dipped the challah, the bread into, what do you call it? The fish. Allah Rav Yosef Rav Yehuda, and Allah is like Rav Yosef Rav Yehuda, who says that way, right, in the Suvah the chalva, and the wool that gets pulled off the animal onto the trees. Allah Rav Shimon Gamliel, Allah is like Rav Shimon Gamliel. That if you're watching the animal together with its mother, so then that's considered pay because you don't have to work as hard, right? So we'll see on Amar Aleph the obvious question, which is, why do you need, if you go with the first shita, that just dipping the bread into brine is enough of a payment, so then the other two for sure are going to work, right? You don't need to say Allah is like all three. Just say Allah is like Yehuda, and then you know the other two for sure are going to be considered payment. But we'll get to that. Now the Gemara says a story, but not an easy story though. Bnei Rav Elish nafik alayah hushtara. So the Bnei Rav Elish, after Rav Elish died, so his kids, his yarshin, his properties, or all his business, right? And they came and this star of Iska was given to them. What it say in there? Palga ba'agar, palga behefsid, which is that Rav Elish was going to be the sweat guy, and he was going to have half ba'agar, he was going to be entitled to half of the profits, and palga behefsid, half the losses, which we had said, that's what we're talking about. That's what we call, that's your classic case of an iska. But it didn't say anywhere that he was supposed to get the paid, right? We just got finished saying that in order to avoid it looking like ribis, you have to get paid. So Amar Rava, Rav Elish Gavra Rabba, who Rav Elish was a Gavra Rabba, he would not have given Isurim to somebody, meaning he wouldn't make somebody be over on ribis. Now the question that's obvious is, what do you mean? What does he worry about somebody else? He himself would have also been over on ribis, right? Meaning the Gemara is making it sound like, Rav Elish would never have caused somebody else to have ribis, right? Mashma that he himself, he doesn't care about ribis.
No, mashma, like we're saying, it's not ribis.
Well, that the Gemara, that's the next teretz, but that's the Gemara. But right now the Gemara is thinking that it is ribis, right? But it's not. But for some reason Rav Elish, it's not ribis. So the fascinating. The Ramah says, he doesn't say it on this, but the Ramah says that we learned that you have to take. We said that the loiva and the malva are both, like, what was one of the chidushim of ribis? That both the malva and the loiva are over, right? It doesn't make any sense. Why should the loiva be over? He's the one that's getting messed up by having to pay interest. But we said either way, the malva and the loiva are over.
Like by a haircut, they're both over. No?
Right. But by a haircut, at least
what the barber do? What the barber?
No, but the barber's making money giving a haircut that's not kosher, and the guy
he gave free haircuts. The guy
okay, so I don't know. So
it was the 10th custom. He got a free.
Okay, so yeah, so I don't know. In that case, I don't know. But here, the loiva is not gaining anything, yet he's over. So the Ramah says that by ribis derabbanon, the loiva is not over on anything, and this here is according to that's what he brings from this. It's a gewaldige thing. Right, Rav Elish was not worried about himself because this was a case of ribis derabbanon, and the lender, the borrower, is not over on any isurim by ribis derabbanon. It's only an issue for the malva. Right, very, very. I found that to be very interesting. And the majority of cases of ribis are ribis derabbanon. I mean, at least the practical. But anyway, so that's the first shot. Is that he was worried. We're going to say Rav Elish couldn't possibly, it's not really a first shot. The Gemara is saying that Rav Elish couldn't possibly cause somebody to be over on ribis by not paying him for his work. So what they said is manav shach. What it must be that this is what he meant by the shtar. Ipalga ba'agar, So you have two choices. Basically, they're saying must be Rav Ilish made a deal with the fellow, and he wrote in the shtar that they're splitting the profits and they'll split the loss. But if he took palga ba'agar, if he decided that he'll take half the profits, then trey tilsa behefsid. Then if the business would lose money, then the silent partner would lose 2/3, and the sweat partner would only lose 1/3. That's one option. The other option on Tamar Aleph is ipalga behefsid, and if you decide that you'll only be chayiv, you only be liable, I guess, for half the losses, trey tilsi ba'aga, then you're going to get 2/3 of, if the business makes money, then you're going to get 2/3. Right? So basically what they're saying is that even though the shtar said half and half, it must mean that if you have the choice whether to choose half the profits, or you have the choice that you'll only do half the loss. But on the flip side, you're going to gain. So that's considered like a payment. That must be what Rav Ilish meant by half, like they're splitting half the profits and half the losses. Right? So therefore there was something in it for the sweat guy, and therefore that would take care of the rivers. So fine. So Amar of Kahana. I said this over to him. How do you know? Maybe Rav Ilish, when he made this deal, so he dipped his bread into the tzir, into the brine, and that's how he got paid. Rav Nachman said Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda, so maybe that's how he got paid. Meaning, just because it's not in the contract, maybe they just assume when they sat down to write up this deal, the silent partner told him, here, so now take some of your bread, dip it into my thing, and that's going to be your payment, and that's all. And we're saying that's where we pass it. Amalei lav hilchasa itmar elashita itmar. I didn't say it was a halacha. It's like a shita, meaning they're all saying the same shita. He wasn't saying that we paskin like that. They're all saying the same psak, which is that you only have to give a little bit to the sweat guy, and that would be enough. All right? Yeah. And either way, Taisa says we don't paskin like that. But Taisa says we paskin like Rav Shimon Gamliel. Right? Because we says halach is kamaisa. Which means that you have to pay him legitimately. Even though we normally give $1, but we'll see a little weiter about that. Fine. So the Gemara says that makes sense. Because if you don't say this, right, this is what we said before. Why do you have to say that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, and the halacha is like I forgot already who the middle one was, and then Rav Shimon Gamliel, right? If you already say that halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that the sweat partner all he has to do is dip some of his bread into the brine, and that's enough of a payment. So then that's enough. Right, we don't need more than that. Fine. So Amar Rav. Okay, new thing now. Amar Rav. So Rav says, Maisa shlish b'scharcha. Let's say the silent partner tells the guy working, he says, any extra more than 1/3 of how much money I put in, you get all the profits after that. All right. Meaning, basically, he's saying we'll split the profits up into a point. After that, you, the worker, get to keep everything. So the question is that enough? Is that enough of a payment? Right? Yeah, I'm seeing he's not paying him anything, but he's telling him if the business makes more than 1/3 of what money I put in, you get to keep everything. So then there's a I don't know what's it called, a drive. There's a drive for him to do it, and there's something for him to be nene from it.
Incentive.
That's the word. Thank you. That's the word.
Impetus.
Impetus, incentive. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So Rav says as long as he gives him more than a third, as long as he offers him, it doesn't have to be a third. It doesn't have to be more than a third. It can be anything more. If he has the option to earn more than the silent partner, then that's enough of a payment. Harezeh mutter. It's mutter to do that. Shmuel Amar loy matzah. What happens if you don't? If it doesn't end up earning more than a third? Then he's going to go home empty-handed. So how can you say that that's considered a payment? You're assuming the business is going to do well, which of course everybody when they start a business is going to thinks they're going to do well. But let's say it doesn't, so then he's going to go home empty. So then it looks like ribbis again. So Elamar Shmuel koitzitz loy dinar, and this is I think the way we paskin. You have to give him a dinar, right? Meaning he says to him, if you make more than a third, gesundheit. But if not, then you're gonna at least get a dinar. Like this, there's some sort of payment for him. Yeah, fine. The Savar Rav, and I'm going to ask.
So one second, Yaakov, are these Amoraim being chaylik on Rishim Barichai?
No, because I think not, because they're talking about where you really did give him, you're really offering him a lot more money. Meaning, if he does very well with the business, then he's going to make a lot of money. So that's going to be a real payment on the tzad that he
not
doesn't.
According to Shmuel.
What do you mean?
On the
Shmuel
side they don't make. According to Shmuel, on the side you don't make more than a shlish. You're paying way less than what Rishim Barichai would hold. So how does he? If we pass like a Rishim Barichai, what would Shmuel do with that? If his kind of is that what happens in a case the suffix you have to worry about the suffix that you might not make money. So then how could Kaitz's dinner be enough with his time? Of you're not gonna the suffix is a bad suffix for him.
No, good, but it's on the again. We're talking about the rabbanon. So on the tzad that it may not make money, so at least you get a dinar. All right, on that side, he's gonna. Yeah. That's what I think it means. All right. So now I'm going to stop asking on Rav. So Rav ain't kotzen like dinar. Rav says when we don't, you don't give him a dinar. V'amar Rav reish eglu leptuma. The top of the head, right, is that the head of the eglu, the calf. He's meaning this is we're talking about the deal of the animals. We keep talking about it as a regular business, but the same thing. They evaluate how much money, how much the animal is going to be worth, and how this guy has to bring up the animal. So Rav told him, you're going to get the head of the calf. My love, the amrle moisa shlish b'scharcha. I don't know why the Gemara assumes that that's what happened, but moisa shlish is your schar, and on top of that, he also gave him the head. So when it says light, the kamer lay, either you'll accept, you'll take all the profits more than a third, or you'll get the head. So therefore, it's not a raya. Iba yisema, it's not a kasha. Iba yisema, or we can say a different shakikam Rav moisa shlish b'scharcha mutter. When did Rav say that if the sweat partner earns more than a third, meaning he gets to keep everything more than a third, that's going to islay behema day. That's when he had his own behema, right? Meaning he had his own animal, and he's also raising the animal for the silent partner. The Amri Inchi, because men say Gavil l'Torah, Gabel l'Torah. If you're mixing already for one shar, then you can mix for many shars. Meaning, if you're already mixing food for one, you can make a lot. You can already make a lot more, right? You have that sometimes with right. Like if you're bringing me home one guest, the wife will say, "You bring home one guest, you might as well bring home four. It doesn't make a difference. You think they're having guests or they're not having guests, right?" So that's basically we're saying the same thing about animals. If I already have to mix for one animal, I'll mix for a few. Meaning the point is that the worker doesn't have to work so hard for for this partnership, if we call it a partnership, right? Right? It's saying it's because it's weird because he's still doing work. He's just not doing. He's not doing as much of work, or do we say no? His mom is not doing any work, right? Meaning he's still doing work. But I guess we have to look at it that no, he's not. The work he's doing is for himself. Which Tosis actually asks the kasha. Well, if that's the case, then half of it is his own money, right? That's what we look at it. We only look at half of it as a loan. So he really is working for himself. Okay, whatever. It's confusing. Fine. Rabbi Lazar, we got another story here. Rabbi Lazar mehagrunya zovin behema. Rabbi Lazar mehagrunya bought a behema, v'yav le'al arisa, and he gave it to a sharecropper. Meaning he had a regular sharecropper. He had parents. Here we go, right? So he had a regular sharecropper, which is the guy works his fields for a percentage. He went into another deal. He did a side deal with a sharecropper, and he gave him an animal. And they did this whole partnership. V'yav le'al arisa, and mefatim le, and the sharecropper fattened up the animal, which was his job. V'yavle reisha ba'agri, and Rebbe Lozer me'agrunya gave him, because he had to pay him, so he gave him the head. V'yav palga revacha, and he also gave him half the profit. Right, so he gave him half the profit because that was the deal. It was an iska, and he, as his payment, he also gave him extra. He gave him the head. So amrle devisu, like we had a few weeks ago, right? Don't listen to the wives. It says, right, the Gemara said at the end of Azov, don't listen, it was last week, whatever. Don't listen to the wives. And we said by Mili da Alma, don't listen to the wives. So I think Mili da Alma said we did listen to the wives, no? Whatever it is. So the wife.
Mili the base listen to the wife, Mili da Alma don't, and the other one was Ruchnius versus Kashmirs.
Right. Very good. So, anyways, I don't know where this falls. I don't know where this one falls. But the wife got involved. Amrle Devisu, the wife said, if you're a shutef, right? Then Yav Lechanami Al Yisa, he should have given you the fatty tail. Right? So Azal, so meaning I guess she's telling him, I guess the classic case, the husband comes home with the head, he says, look, I got a bonus, I got a head. And the wife says, if you would have structured it as a shutvis, you would have gotten the fatty tail too. So of course he failed, the husband, right? In the wife's eyes. Classic. Yeah. I don't know if that's exactly what her kavanah was, but it sure fits. But anyways, so Azal, so what do you do? Of course, the husband goes out and he has to prove it to his wife. So Azal Zavin Bahadeh. So he went and he bought an animal together with his boss, with Rebbe Lazar. And then Polygle Me'ali. So since there was 50-50, so he got to split the fatty tail. Right? So Amalei Tanifagil Resha. So then Rebbe Lazar said, okay, now let's split the head. Amalei, so he said to him, the sharecropper said to him, Hashta, you're not even going to give me like I got in the beginning, meaning when I was working for you or whatever, I was the sweat partner. I got the whole head. I didn't get the tail, but I got the whole head. Now that we're partners, I should be upgraded. So now you're giving me half the tail and half the head. So what kind of upgrade is that? So Malay, so he said, Rebbe Lazar said back to him, up until now, it was my money. And in if I wouldn't have given you a little bit more, it looks like ribbis, like we've been saying for the last two daf. Hashta shutviana, but now we're partners. To Akiva, this is where it gets a little dicey. Now, I don't know if this is where it continues to get dicey. Hashta shutviana. Now we're partners. We bought this animal together. I'm assuming it's fairly straightforward because they both must have given the money for it. Maika Amrit, so what are you going to say? Well, we were partners, but Terchana Tvei Purta, but that meaning he's saying, what are you going to say? You're going to say, but I worked harder because I had to bring up the animal. Meaning, even though we both paid equal money for the animal, but I, meaning the sharecropper, did more work, so I should get more schar. Amri Inshi. To that, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lazar, sorry, told him, Stama Risa Lamari Araka Meshabat Nafshe. A regular sharecropper is to he's meshabed himself to his boss. Lasuye le raya, to bring him good animals to what's called raya, to not pasture, yeah, to pasture, right? Meaning a sharecropper has to work harder for his boss, and that's what you did, right? Meaning he was saying that the reason why you had to put in extra work was out the sharecropper, right? So therefore, once they were partners, then it's a whole different calculation, right? So now you have to know also, hey, when you structure a deal, you have to know: is it a partnership? Is it a sharecropper? Is it a iska? Right? These are all very complicated, very complicated. When you go into a business deal, you got to make sure you're doing it proper. All right, Tana Rabbanan. Send the Rabbanan say a different case. Hasham behema lechaveri, if they evaluate a behemoth to his friend. An masay chayv l'tapaba, how long is he mechuyev? Meaning they went into this deal and they told him, okay, this animal should be worth such and such, and you're going to bring it up. So for how long is he mechuyev to be metapel with it? Sumchas aimer ba'asayna is shmayna asachaydish. For an asayn, for a donkey, it's 18 months, a year and a half. Big guy dries. But for Rashi says it's behemoth daka, which would be sheep, goats, lambs, whatever. That's 24 months. And let's say he wants to cut out during that time. His chaver, meaning the silent partner, the one that just owns the animals, can be ma'akiv. But it's not comparison to tipul. The work you have to do into this year, it doesn't come close to the work that you have to do in the next year, meaning it's even more work, right? Because so then there's going to be a kasha exactly what that means, right? But again, the second, you can't just book out. So the Gemara asks, well, it's in parentheses. Well, let's say, because it makes it easier. Well, it changes it. It's my aval to kamer. What do you mean aval? Right? Aval sounds like if the second year is harder, so then why shouldn't this guy be able to back out? Meaning he agreed to bring up the animal. First year, fine. Second year is much harder, so maybe he should back out. So Gemara says we changed it. Ella lefi. Like lefi she'ein edam tipula shoshana zu l'tipula shoshana acheres, because we don't compare the tipul of this year to the tipul of another year. Meaning you can't, since the second year is even harder than the first year, that's why you can't back out. That's why you can't back out, because what you're going to leave, this silent partner hanging with he's having nothing to do. Fine. Tanya Yidach, we learn another brayso. Hasham behem l'chaveiroi. So let's say he's supposed to take care of the animal, right? And then the animal has a baby. So now, what does he have to do with the baby? So Badka Lamid Yom, Bedaka Lamid Yom. So by a behemoth daka, he has to deal with it for 30 days. Ubagasa Nun Yom. And by a gasa, by a big animal, it's 50 days. Rabbi Yossi Omer Bedaka Gimel Chadashim. By a daka, it's 3 months. Tipula Meruba, it needs a lot of work. My Tipula Meruba, what does it mean it needs a lot of work? A daka. Since it has very small teeth, it's very hard for it to grind up. Right? So that's the minimum amount of time that this worker has to deal with this new baby, even though this new baby wasn't really part of the deal. Here we go. From there and on, he takes half of the animal for himself, because part of the deal is if the animal has a baby, you get to split that animal. That's considered profits. But then if he continues working with the animal, then he could take chatzi machza of his friend. Meaning, let's say this new animal was worth $100, the baby, right? So each one gets half, 50-50. Now, after 3 months or whatever, whichever sheet you go, they has to take care of it. Now it's a new partnership. So in this partnership, the worker, the sweat guy, owns half the animal, and the other guy owns the other half. Now he's helping him to take care of the animal on his half. So basically, what comes out is that the worker, the sweat guy, gets 75% of the improvements of the animal after, let's go with the sheet of the 3 months. Any improvements that happen to the animal after 3 months, 75% go to the sweat worker. Why? Because again, half the animal is his. So he gets to keep that half. The other half of the animal belongs to the other guy, but he is bringing it up. So he's supposed to get half of the profit for that. So he ends up with 75%. I actually think I understood this one. I hope. So don't anybody ask any questions to confuse me, please. I think I understood that one. Okay. Fine. Right. Rebbe Nashia took me a while, but I think so. Rebbe Nashia Bar Gada. So now we don't go on. There's a couple of stories. Rebbe Nashia Bar Gada did this. Shokol mechza shaloi v'chatzi mechza v'shel chaveroi. The animal had a baby. He took his half, and then he took half of the other half because he was helping him. Also, Abaye came in front of Abaye. Amalei man polagloch. Who split it with you? Right? Meaning you can't just decide to take half the animal. You first have to go to either a bezdin or an expert and figure out, okay, how much is this animal worth? Make sure you go into agreement with the silent partner, etc., etc. That's one. So I mean you can't do that. I mean, he did it on his own without doing the calculations. We're in a place where the minig is that you do have to raise the animal. If you are in a partnership with somebody on a animal, and then that animal has a baby, in our town, Abaye was telling him, your mechuyev, that's considered all part of the mother animal, and therefore it's not considered a new partnership, and therefore you only get half. If it's not makom shenagu legadol yagdilu, if it's a makom that the place that you have to bring up that baby animal, then you have to. So again, the difference is if it's the original partnership, let's call it a partnership, then even from the new baby, they have to split that half down the middle. But if you say that bringing up the new baby is a new partnership, then the worker is going to end up with 75% because he gets half, belongs to him, and then he's helping the silent partner with his half. So he gets half of that. So a half of a half onto a half makes 75%. Okay. Hanu trei kusai. There's 2 kusim. So it has to be, it's clear from this Gemara that it's not talking about, and the article says that I checked, that it's not your standard kusim, because kusim, like parrots, like you said, we learned in Mishnah also tonight. So the kusim they kept the Torah but random. Here, I mean, it's random what they kept. Here, they clearly kept the Torah properly. So Hanu trei kusai, there were 2 kusim. So it must be the town, article says. I forgot who they bring it from. Right? It must be they were from the town called Kusa. David Iska Bada. Say they're an Iska with each other, right? Half and half. Azul Khan Minayo Polik Zuzi. One of them went and split up the money. This is always a recipe for a disaster. When one partner decides without showing the other partner the profits, goes and he went and he split up the profits. And then this part's not in the Gemara. He went and he reinvested the money. So now he looked at it like it's a new investment. So he got half of the initial money, and now he's going and doing a new investment. So the silent partner is only getting half of that new. So basically, it's like the previous case where he took 75%. So which the other guy was very unhappy because he said, "What do you mean? It's all part of the one investment. Therefore, we should split everything 50-50, not 75-25. Also, come to Rapapa. They came in front of Rapapa. Amalei my nafkamina. Right? What's the difference if he split the money without you? Hachi Amar Rav Nachman Zuzi command the pligi dami. Money is already like it's split, which we'll see more on the base. Meaning you don't have to start making cheshbon. Money is money. Yeah, you say the business made $100, 50-50, finish. You don't have to start making calculations. The Shana, but what happened in the next year, Zav and Chamra Ba'adi Adadi, they bought a bottle of wine together. See, this guy, he was not happy. He went to Bezdin against his partner, and now he's going to get him back. Zav and Chamra Ba'adi Adadi, they bought wine together. Come idach. So the other guy got up, Polyglay, and then split up the profit from the barrel of wine. But Lloyd died the Chavri without the das of his friend. And then the same thing happened. He reinvested it, and the other guy came to him with tinus. Also, Rav Papa, Amarle, Man Polyglach. He said, "Who split it up for you? Who said you have the right to do that?" Amarle. So meaning, by the money, Rav Papa Paskin, you didn't have to have it evaluated, but by the wine, he did, because money you don't have to split, but by the barrel you do have to. You do have to calculate it. So the guy got messed. He thought he was in the right because the story that happened to him the year before, and now he got himself messed over because wine is different than money. So Amarle said, "Kazina de basa de dika asimar." So he said, "You're always going after me," meaning I see that Rav Papa doesn't like me. He's always paskening against me. He paskened against me last year by the money, and he's paskening against me this year with the wine. Rav Papa on Beis. So Papa said, "Ki agavna vaday tzarach lo'ydueh." In this situation, I most definitely have to tell him the psak. I have to explain to him the psak, right? Which Taisus asks, what the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that you always have to explain the psak. But Papa is saying, "Oh, the guy has tainas on me. I better explain to him the psak." And what was the psak? So Zuzi, by money, Mishakal Tavi Vishavik Chasri, was one taking good money, was one taking bad money. We'll go with the parentheses. Amar Lei, he said no. We were all using the same coins. So Amar Lei, so Rav Papa said to him, Chamra Kuli Yadi. Everybody knows about wine. The Iki the Basim, the Iki the Loy Basim. There's certain wines that are tasty or smell good, and there are certain wines that don't taste good. So you can't just split it without making sure that you have a good evaluation of how much the wine was really worth. Right? Meaning by money, you're just splitting money. You don't need to evaluate. You don't need an evaluation. You go to the accountant. Accountant says you made $100. Okay, I split the $100. You'll tell the guy about it later. But wine doesn't work like that because you need to get the experts to see how much was the wine taka worth. Fine. Gufa Amarav Nachman Zuzi command the Poligdom. Money is as if it's split already. The pligidum, it's already split, meaning you don't need to have any major evaluations. Hani mili tavi v'tavi tkuli v'tkuli. That's only good coins with good coins, or heavy coins with heavy coins. Aval tavi utkuli like. But if it's good coins or good, I don't know if it's good or heavy, light, whatever, two different types of coins, then you have to split that properly because you have no idea how much each one is worth. Fine. Rav Chama have a mugger zuzi b'pshita b'yoma. Rav Chama would rent out zuzi for a pshita for a day. People, I guess, needed to have different money. He did it as schiras. He did it as a rental, not as a loan. This goes back to Akiva and Ben, what they were discussing, beginning of the daf, right? So is it a rental? Is it a loan? So he specifically used a terminology of a rental. You can come rent money from me, meaning if a guy needs, I was thinking like for a pidyon aben, right? So if a guy needs a silver coins. So basically you can rent him the silver coins, and he would charge him. He charged him a little bit. So kalu zuzi de Rav Chama, and because of this, because he was doing ribis, even though it was rented, he lost all his money. Which Rashi says we're going to learn later that if somebody lends beribis, he ends up losing all his money. Yeah.
By Mendel's opinion and Ben, I bought the silver dollars from my mother. My mother used to save silver dollars. I bought them from her. Then I gave Rabbi Yisrael Bloom was the kohen. We did the pinyon. After the pinyon, my mother went over. She said, "I want the coins back." So he says, "You'll give me a donation for the yeshiva, for the arche." He said, I'll give you the coins. So she wrote him a check and he gave her back the coins.
Oh yeah, okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
I want to talk about changes for the tzarich mitzvah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so who Savar? What was Rav Chama was a Talmud Chacham, right? So what did he do wrong? So who Savar? My Shnam Mimara. Why is it any different if I lend out? There's a big Yisod now in Hilchas Ribbis, this Gemara. There's a few Gemaras in this stuff. My Shnam Mimara. Why is it any different than a Mara, a spade, or a tool? Meaning you're allowed to rent somebody a tool and they pay for it. So why is that allowed? So meaning, and meaning I'm renting a guy $1 or a silver dollar. So why can't I rent the guy I mean, the same way I could rent the guy a tool, or I can rent the guy a car and he pays for it, right? So why can't I rent the guy money? That's what Rav Chama was thinking. V'lohi, it's not true. Mara hadra ba'ena. The Mara goes back the way it is, meaning you borrowed a tool, you return a tool, right? And who's responsible for the loss, right? That's going to be the owner. So since the owner is going to take a loss, meaning the loss is not going to be in the borrower. The main side with all these things is that when the borrower doesn't risk a loss, like Akiva said it very well in the beginning. When you're not risking a loss, then you're considered a borrower. Did I say that right, Akiva? I think that's what the Gemara
says.
Yeah, I'm saying that's yeah. So when you're not risking a loss, which is the normal renter, unless obviously it was something really went wrong, and you were a pashe or whatever it is, but in the standard wear and tear, there's no loss for you. So Mamela, there's the loss is all based on the renter. So therefore, he's entitled to take money for it. And everybody knows when a tool, as it wears out, it's very known that what happens. Zuzi loy hajabena, but Zuzi money doesn't have to go back beinayu. You don't have to give that exact money. You give back a different coin. But loy yediyah, and it's hard to know because back then, like we learned in Hazav, back then they actually worked with the actual size of the coin, and if the coin got worn down, and it was hard to tell. So therefore, it's totally different.
The Torah is telling you it's different.
What do you mean?
What do you have to take a whole gyrations? You can't rent money. That's what Ribbis is exactly. I want to give me $100. I want to use it for a month. I'll give you back $120. That you can't do that. I could rent me a hammer and I'll give you $20 at the end of the month for using the hammer for the month. That's perfectly fine. The Torah is telling you Ribbis is no good.
Right, but here it's not really here. It wasn't really.
That's what it is. You're renting money.
Right, but it's here. It wasn't renting money. It wasn't a loan. He needed this coin for a particular reason, like with the pigeon up. That's why I'm understanding it. Meaning, if you calling that borrowing? If you bought the pigeon up Ben coin from your mother, let's say, right? Is that called a borrowing, or is that called that you actually rented a coin? I need this particular coin.
And then the answer of the Gemara doesn't work.
Why?
If you can rent, I would say according to there's two parts to the answer. One is Hadra Be'ena, one is Yadei Pichse. So
Right.
the Pidyon Ben coins are Hadra Be'ena.
Yeah, I don't think it was a Pidyon Ben case. It was Stam. He called it a rental, but in essence he was doing a loan. Right. And that's what it's hard to understand why he thought it was mutter. I mean, Tosha says he was Mekabel Achayas. That's why it was, but yeah, it's
well, let's say the same way in Ribbis Rabbanon, the structure makes a big difference. Even though we would say it's a loan, no, it's a business, fine. So it's not Ribbis, it's not Mexican Ribbis anymore because it's structured. We'd say that the structure is different. So he figured the same thing here. It's structured as a rental, not a loan. A loan with interest, everyone understands. It's also that's Ribbis. But why can't I rent them?
Okay, Anachanami. I don't know. That's the way I understood it, but
It's Yaakov, they bring down from the Trumas, the Gra brings down from the Trumas suggestion that if he would have also not been Makabel, if he would have been Makabel, Gneva Vaveda, it would have been Mutter.
that what?
I guess he's Medayik and Tyson says that he was Makabel of Achrais Einstein. So the Trumas suggestion says that, but if he would have been Makabel also Gneva Vaveda, it would have been Mutter. And he says it's true, Lagabi, every single rib is Darabbanan. If you take that much Achrayas on yourself,
I hear.
that's what he says. The gross silent, but he does bring down inside that there are cases that you could rent something out and rent out money even, I guess. And if you're Makabel all that Achrayas, it would be mutter to a point where you're Makabel even Gneva Vaveda.
I hear. That's interesting. The one case,
Well,
and I meant to look it
you're
up.
talking about renting money to use in a movie scene. When I go to a loan shark and I say I'm renting $1,000 from you, I'm chayiv and all this stuff. He couldn't care less. Like I got hit by a truck, or I dropped it down a sewer, or Gershon hit me over the head and took it. I got to give this guy back $1,100 in 30 days, or he's going to break my legs. You know what?
Right. So then that's not
so
a
you're saying that
Makabel
works.
case.
So you're saying that works.
That's not a Makabel Achrayas case.
That's a chrayas.
Oh, so I would say
No, we're talking about the person lending is being Makabel Achrayas. The loan shark would be the one being Makabel Achrayas, not you. That's the uniqueness of his case.
That's like having skin in the game.
Well,
it's like making sure it's not looked at as a loan. That's what the lender is trying to do. He's saying this isn't a loan. I'm going to be Makabel the Einstein on myself.
Okay, so there's an interesting practical case. I meant to look it up in the Rabbi Reis and Rivers book, but I couldn't find it. I looked only for a minute. If you borrow a classic case, you borrow somebody's car, and as a mensch, people want to fill up the car with gas. You want to give them a full tank, right? As a mensch, what's the thing to do? Is it ribis? So as far as I remember, he says it's not ribis. I think it's from this case because you borrowed a car. You gave him back a car. It's not, he took all the risk, not you. The wear and tear is on him. So Mamela, you're allowed to give him gas. Right? I think that would be the practical application of this. So yeah,
it's like borrowing a shovel. Same thing.
Right, same thing, right? But then you could and then you could give him back an extra shovel or an extra handle or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Next case, also interesting.
I'm saying that it would be impossible to borrow a car.
Why? Just don't fill it up with gas.
You have to rent it.
Don't fill it up with gas.
You're definitely giving it back with a different amount of gas than it had.
Why?
That there's no doubt.
Why? Just don't fill it up.
You have to have something. How you use some of it.
Why did he have something?
I understand.
It's impossible to tell how much is in the tank.
Okay,
you use the car, you're using gas, right?
Right, so you don't fill it up.
Just give it back to him with less gas.
Yeah.
You give it back with less gas. So he gave you gas. Either way, he's giving you something or you're giving him something.
Yeah, but you didn't buy it.
It's definitely not a straight. There's something more than just straight borrowing.
There's wear and tear on the car, yes. So all of that, all that is included.
Gas,
it's not. Why don't you run
You're
a
not borrowing the gas?
Run a Yapchik Kugel special. When you borrow a car, don't put in the gas. You have a shotgun for everybody. Give him a piece of a Yapchik Kugel for Shabbos. That'll take care of all this fakis.
Okay.
And I'm saying, yeah, listen, I don't, you mean you're saying it's going to be ribis the other way if you don't fill it up?
Yeah.
Why? He's giving you the car. So you borrowed a car. What are you giving him back?
No, so it'll be two separate things. It's like when you borrow a pen, you're borrowing the use of the pen. The ink, you're not paying back. The ink is a gift. Whatever ink you use.
Yeah.
Every time you borrow a chayfetz, there's two separate things going on.
I hear. Okay, whatever it is, fine. Let's see weiter. Omar Rava. A person could tell his friend, you got to be a really good friend for this. Rachamim, this chavre here has to be a chaver. Heilach dalet zuzi, here's 4 zuz, va'oisvei leplan yezuzi, and go lend money to somebody else. Meaning, basically what you're doing is you're saying to this guy, lend money to my friend, I'll pay you the ribis. There's three parties here. You go to the lender and say, my friend needs a loan. He can't pay you ribis, that's Isser. But I'll pay you the ribis, right? A real fine fellow, right? So then, because that's mutter. The Torah only asked ribis that's paid from the lender, from the borrower to the lender. That's it. This comes up sometimes when somebody borrows a credit card and then they find out later that, and they're paying interest, that's ribis, that could very well be ribis daraisa. Right? And then they find out. So what do you say? Listen, what are you going to do? You have to pay your friend's ribis, meaning the owner of the credit card who let his friend use his credit card. You have to pay the ribis for him, right?
Yeah, but I've heard of cases like this that went into thousands of dollars and people got messed over because of that.
Yeah.
It's not. That's why you do not want to be borrowing other people's credit cards. It's not
correct.
a simple thing at all.
As long as you pay it off straight, as long as you pay it straight up,
fully.
Yeah.
Tell that to my wife and kids.
What about the 2% they give you a kickback, the 3%, depending like my credit card? I lent it to the guy who the $10,000 he did. We paid the $10,000 and I get 3% back. Is that ribis?
No. Why?
I'm getting it from the credit card company.
If that were true, all these buying groups would be shut down. I love it.
Oh, that's definitely a third party.
It is a third party, right? Yeah. So why shouldn't yeah.
I don't know.
But why is this not considered like that guy's just a shliach to bring the money to the other person? Who's being kind to the money right now in this case?
What are you saying?
How does this case work? You're giving a third party money and he's giving it to the other person. Who's getting paid back this money? You're lending the money, right?
You're paying somebody to make a loan to a third party. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
So who is getting paid back at the end of the day? The person who's giving the money originally?
No, the original lender gets paid back whatever the original borrower. He borrowed $100 and he pays back $100. And the malva, the lender, ends up with $110 because the other guy gave him $10 to make the loan.
The third party is paying the interest?
Yes, the third party. That's the chiddush of the Gemara. Even though the lender ends up at the end of the day with more than what he lent out, but doesn't matter because it's coming from two different parties.
I hear.
Well, that was. Am I getting this right? If there's Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, if Reuven goes to Shimon and gives him $100, it's yours. It's now Shimon's. You lend this money to Levi and tell him to pay me back $110. So Levi is paying Reuven back.
That's what I thought also, but why would that help? Like, it's the same thing.
No, because Shimon owns the money. So Shimon is the one lending, and Reuven is the one receiving.
Right.
He's not a shliach. He gave it to Shimon. He gave the money to Shimon.
I don't know. Okay, it's late. It's 9:37 already. Okay, I blew through that mark. Okay, well, let's go weiter. At least we understand. Bottom line is, if you're a nice guy, you can pay ribis for your friend. That's the bottom line from this Gemara. All the other cheshbon is, I don't know.
But not if the malva originally charges interest to the loiva and then you pay it off. That's not going to work. I don't think.
L'chayra.
right? That's not going to
I'm
go.
not sure. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure with the credit card. I'm not sure if that would work.
Right.
You saw
Right.
that somebody says dafka it's not going to work.
No,
I'm not.
I just.
I
Maybe it would.
hear your points. I know. I hear.
Yeah,
It's a
maybe
good
it would.
point,
In Economy. Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But I'm not sure because maybe it's the din in the ribbit. I don't know. I hear.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll check the Rabbi Reisman. Another loophole. A person can tell his friend, take these 4 zuz, and please go tell this guy to lend me money. My timer. Scharamira kashakel. Because all he's doing is he's taking a schar amira, meaning here the lender's getting the money, right? No, he's not. No. That's the next. That's really not. Well, it's partially the next case. You can go to your friend and tell him here. Basically you're bribing him. Take these 4 zuz, right, and then go tell this guy that he should give me money or lend me money, right? Meaning the borrower here is basically it's what do you call it when they do it under the table kickback. So he's giving a guy a kickback to convince his friend to lend him the money. My time is schara mira. All it is schara mira. Kiyada ava mamari braid rapapa have a shakel ugno de kira mikiroi. So Abba Mamari, who was Rapapa's son, Rapapa was a wealthy person, would take a shakel ugna dekira. He would take pieces of wax from the wax sellers, and he would tell his father, his vinuzuzi, lend them money, right? So, I mean, he went and they bribed the son basically to convince the father to lend them money. Some of the Rabbana the Rapapa, so Rabbana to Rapapa, Achil Brei de Maravisa, your son is eating the ribbis, meaning we're giving you money, but we're giving it to your son. If that's what ribbis is, he could eat it. Ribbis is only also when it comes from the loiva to the malva. Here, it's the schara mira he's taking the shari, and that's mutter. Now, and it's pashut. I think it's pashut that's only if the son is not saimach al shulchan aviv, right? Meaning, if the son is living in the father's house and the son is going to save, the father's saving money if you bribe the kid. So memela, that's not allowed. It has to be that he's an independent entity, right?
I was going to ask, when he said Achil Berei Damar, is he saying the son of Rav Papa, as in Rav Papa's Mar? Because Rav Papa's son,
so.
whose name was Mar, it could be he's saying his grandson. To point out that he's not Saimach al Shulchan Aviv because he has kids of his own.
I hear. I don't know. I understood it. It's simple, but that's yeah. All right. I don't know what took so long tonight's hour. I thought tonight's hour would be pretty quick. I don't know. All right. Shine. Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll make it up tomorrow, Bez Hashem.
Is it tomorrow's at 5:30 again? 6.
No, Rachamim. It's very rare that happens. I'll call you Beli Neder from now on. I'll call you.
Call me Bli Neder. Hello,
Yeah.
Bli Neder. This is me.
There you go. Very good. Okay.
Rachman, can you wait till after we stop the recording? Because then I can get yelled at by everybody who listens the next day.
No, but we already said that it's over. I can't. Why am I not? Why is my recording button? What happened to it?